Hey guys, Scott from scottsweb.dev here. Today I'm going to show you how to learn basic PHP for beginners. To get started, what you'll need is a PHP enabled web server and a code editor. If you don't have a code editor, I recommend Visual Studio Code or Sublime Text. Sublime Text is going to be lighter weight, and Visual Studio Code is going to be a little heavier but more feature rich. You can't go wrong with either of those, just don't use Notepad. You can, but it'll be very helpful if you don't. So PHP is basically just a hypertext preprocessor, which means that it generates HTML. And I've created a very basic HTML page here. All I have is just a container with a heading and a paragraph. I called it learnphp.html. The only thing we need on a PHP-enabled web server to run PHP is to just change this extension. So if we change this from .html to .php, we will now have a PHP page. So let's go ahead and do that. And we'll visit it in our browser here. As you can see, it looks exactly the same. It's now being interpreted by PHP and it's outputting this HTML, which is the same as if we just ran the regular HTML page. If you're on Windows and you can't see file extensions, all you'll need to do is open up a folder and go to View, Show, and check this box here called File Name Extensions, and then you'll be able to see your file extensions and rename them when you rename the file. So now we are running a PHP page. Let's get started learning PHP. The first thing you need to know about PHP is how to enter PHP code and exit it. So anywhere in your PHP code, you can put a opening PHP tag. That looks like this. It's just less than question mark then PHP. This is what we call the long version of the opening tag, and it's what you should always use. You may have seen just this in other code around the web, which is just a less than question mark. This is called a short open tag, and it's not always available. It's dependent upon the PHP configuration. So don't use this if you want your code to be able to run everywhere. And for best practices, always use the long version. You may have also seen people do this in code. You'll have a less than question mark equals. This is a shorthand echo. It's going to print this to the screen. This is actually not short open tags, and this will work everywhere. It's not dependent on configuration. However, I just don't recommend it. It's bad practice and probably a personal preference. I just don't like it. Always use the long version of PHP like this. When you're done writing your PHP code, you'll put question mark greater than. That's the closing tag. So to write PHP, you have your opening tag, your code goes in here, and then your closing tag. So we can save this right now. It's valid. It won't throw out any errors, and you'll just see the same thing you've seen before. So that's how you enter and exit PHP code. You also can put this anywhere in your HTML multiple times. So like if I wanted to put it up here, I could, and I can have it down here. You can have it in multiple places, and you can even mix them. Like you can switch from PHP to HTML back to PHP as long as you have the opening and closing tags. The next thing I want to talk about is comments. As a beginner, you should be commenting your code a lot. And there's two ways to comment in PHP. Comments are not shown in the source code. They're not shown on the page. They're literally just there for you and for your reference, so you can reference it later. So the first way to do it is a // and then you can type whatever you want. This is a comment. If I save this, you'll see it doesn't show on the screen. It also doesn't show in the source of the page. so they are private, they're just for you. Another way to write a comment is with /*, and this allows you to write a multiple line comment. So this comment spans multiple lines. You close it with a */. There you go. That's two ways to do comments. Make sure you're commenting your code a lot as a beginner. That's one of the things that trips me up even now, is I don't comment my code enough, and I wonder what's going on, and I have to trace back the code and figure out what's going on. So you'll thank your future self if you write lots of comments now. So we'll go ahead and write a comment for about what we're about to do. I wrote a comment that says this is a variable, so I'm going to show you how to write variables. In PHP, variables start with a $, and then they're letters and numbers and underscores. So I could write my name. The only caveat is it can't start with a number, and you can't use hyphens. So keep your variable names valid. Don't start them with a number. Don't use a hyphen. And variables hold pieces of data for you to use later in your PHP code, and you assign them a value. And how you do that is you put your variable name, like I have here, then equals, and then your data, and then a semicolon. A semicolon ends every PHP command. You actually will run into a lot of errors because you forget semicolons. So just make sure you're ending every line with this, or every command with the semicolon. So here we've assigned the value of Scott to the variable my name. You can also use numbers. So my favorite number equals 5. So here I assign the value of 5 to the variable my favorite number. Now we can use these variables to print a statement in PHP or in HTML. So here I'll just, since I closed my PHP code here, I'll just put a paragraph tag, and I'll write my name is, then I'll do opening PHP, echo my name, semicolon, closing PHP, and my favorite number is, we'll do the same thing again. Put a period. So if you can see what's going on here, we have a variable called my name. We assign the value of Scott. We have a variable called my favorite number, which we assign the value of 5. And then in HTML, we put a paragraph tag, and we wrote my name is, and here we echo the variable. Echo means you're printing the variable to the screen. So echo the variable my name, and then echo the variable my favorite number. And when you do that, it's going to echo the value for that variable, not the variable name. So if I hit save here and go to my screen, you'll see I now have a paragraph that says my name is Scott and my favorite number is 5. Let's say later on I get a new favorite number and my favorite number is 17. I don't have to update any of this code. I just update my variable here, put 17. Now it says my name is Scott and my favorite number is 17. So that's variables and how to assign data to them. I do want to add, you should use descriptive names for your variable. That's another issue I still deal with today, is I don't give descriptive names, and I'll have statements like if xn for each dq as pt do this, and I have to think, what the heck am I doing here? I have to trace my code back to see what the values are. So write descriptive names for your variables. You'll thank yourself later. You might be wondering why I put my name in quotes, but I didn't put my number in quotes. And that's because they're different data types. So my name is a string, and a number is an integer. Strings are just pieces of data like text, and they go in quotes. If you have a number that's an integer and you just type it out, So that's why my name is in quotes, because it's a string, and my number is not in quotes because it's an integer. Now you don't have to use double quotes. You can also use single quotes. This would be the same thing. I do want to show you how, let's say that you need quotes inside of your string. So here we'll do, my name is Scott. As you can see here by my syntax highlighting, that's an error because we have a single quote inside of another single quote. So to fix this, we can change the outside ones to double quotes. That way we're not mismatching quotes here. Or we can do the opposite, change the inside ones to double quotes and the outside ones to single quotes. That would be the same, that would fix that. Another way is if for some reason you just have to have double quotes inside double quotes, you can use a backslash character to escape the quotes. So this would work. All right. So I've explained strings and numbers. With double quoted strings, you can actually put variables inside of them. So if I write that again, I can do this. PHP echo, my name is my name, and my favorite number is my favorite number. So this will work too. Double quoted strings can have variables inside of them. The next thing I want to show you is string concatenation. So we have two strings here, which is my first name and my last name, and we want to echo them together. So you could do it like I did before with HTML and then words and opening and closing tags, but if you want to echo them both at the same time, you would do echo and then your variable name and then a dot and your other variable name. So the dot actually concatenates two strings together into one. So you see here, I printed both variables at the same time as one string by using a dot. All right, let's see what else we can get into here. So we've showed you opening and closing tags, comments, variables, strings, integers, variables inside of quotes, quote types, string concatenation. We could get into if-else functions. So if-else forms the basics of a programming language. It's conditional logic, like if this, then that. And what that boils down to is expressions. So if I put my number equals 5, and then say I wanted to have a conditional statement that says if my number is less than 5, do this, otherwise do that. So to do that, we would use an if-else block. You just write the word if, and then opening parentheses, and then your expression. So if my number is less than 5, and then your opening brace, closing brace, and your PHP code goes in between there, we'll just put echo my number is less than 5. So if our number is less than 5, that will show up. So right now it's not less than 5, so we don't expect it to show up, and it doesn't. But if we make our number 4, oops, then it will show up. So expressions are what's in between the parentheses, and they always evaluate to true or false. So if the number is less than 5, this will evaluate to true, and the code in between here gets ran. If it does not evaluate to true, if the number is not less than 5, the code in here does not get ran. So I'll show you an else. We can extend this if block by adding else and then our braces. And what that does is if this is false, the else block gets ran. So I'll put echo my number is not less than 5. So if we go over this here, I have a variable $4. I've assigned the value of variable my number, or assigned the value of 4 to variable my number. I have an if else. If my number is less than 5, we echo my number is less than 5. Otherwise, we echo my number is not less than 5. So our number is 4. Let's see which one it runs. My number is less than 5. So let's change it to 7. Now that it's 7, my number is not less than 5. And like I said before, if-else statements really form the basics of a programming language and logic. You can do lots of powerful things with simple if-else statements. There's a lot more to PHP that I might get into in a part 2 if you guys are interested. If you are interested, leave a comment. I'll check those, or if this video gets lots of views, I will make a part 2. I do want to show you functions. There are a lot of functions built into PHP that you can call. Like here, I'll call mtrand and 110. So here I'm going to choose a random number between 1 and 10 and then run this expression on it. So it's going to randomly choose a number and then tell you if it's less than 5 or not less than 5. I will go ahead and echo my number here in a paragraph just so we can see what the number is. Don't forget your semicolons. So here you see we got the number 4. My number is less than 5. We got 8. My number is not less than 5. 3, 2, 9. Every time we refresh this, we'll get a different number. And that's what mtrand does. It gives you a random number between this value and this value. These are called function parameters. If you want me to get into a part 2, I would think we would do arrays and probably forms like get values and post values, and loops like for and while loops. Yeah, so like I said, if you guys like this video, we'll do a part 2, and go ahead, play around with PHP, get the basics down, and when we do part 2, we'll see you in that one. Thanks for watching.